Dianne, thank you so much for being here. How's your evening?
Oh, it's good. It's quiet. I like it.
Wonderful. Well, I am pumped to have you here because we go back a little bit. We'll get into that in a minute, but before we jump in, why don't you go ahead for me and everyone watching and share a little bit of your background, your bio. Who is Dianne?
Sure. First, thanks for having me. Excited for this. Um, so I'm Dianne. I have a background in hospitality management and business administration management. Um, and I've basically just worked my ranks through the hospitality industry, and then I quick pivoted and got out of it into I now am the operations manager for a company that distributes distillation equipment. So it's kind of hospitality related, but not so demanding.
Got it. So that makes no sense at all, to be perfectly honest. That is a very robust background. I mean, obviously, for those of you who can't tell from the physical resemblance, this is my sister, Dianne. She is quite the professional who has amassed a very, very solid background in hospitality, restaurant management, and then now, like she just said, pivoted into this world of distillation and operations management. I don't get it because it seems so drastically different, but you made some very specific decisions as you kind of matriculated through your career. Talk us through that up until when you decided to say, you know what, this isn't for me anymore, pivot, what's next? So talk us through that a little bit.
Sure, yeah. So, my first jobs were in restaurants, and I absolutely loved the style, the atmosphere. They were just fun and engaging, and you always got to talk to customers. So I decided that my dream was to become a general manager for a restaurant. So I did the quick service restaurants, and then I worked my way through the serving. I got into some hotel banquets and catering and all that. I went to school for hospitality management. I even worked at a culinary institute for a while. But then I worked as a GM at a quick service restaurant, and it was just very demanding, and it was a hard time in my life for personal reasons. And as the demands got even more, I realized that I did not want every night, weekend, and holiday to be taken up by being at work, and I wanted to spend time with my family and my friends and enjoy the moment that it was. So I said enough of this. I want to find a more desk job, and I took my inventory skills and started where I am in the warehouse doing inventory management and packing and shipping.
All right, so before we get into that, let's rewind a little bit. So you started
Okay.
working like I did, 13, 14, 15 years old here
Right.
in suburbia, Florida. As you can see in my
Yes.
background, yours is very sterile. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But so you started in this with this idea of paying your dues to become a GM. Right.
Right.
And you hit all the big guys, right? You did McDonald's, you did
Boston Market.
Boston Market, you did Earl of Sandwich, you did Panera Bread,
Hmm.
Culinary Institute, like you said. That was all paying dues, right? You were in it. You were
Right.
one to the next to the next. What was your driver there? It was a job description, it was money. What was driving you at that point?
Well, like I said, I had the goal. I wanted to be a general manager. Like I wanted to be the boss, and I wanted to say, like, yes, I run this place.
Yeah, you
Um,
did.
yeah. I mean, there's something that's to be said with the title. It's exciting.
Listen, sorry, not sorry. I get it.
Yeah,
100%.
totally. Um, but it
So
was just,
fun
and
because
then
we know
yes,
everything. So we're pretending like we're doing a legitimate interview, but we already know these answers. It's fun though.
yeah,
It's so exciting to be able to share something that I'm doing with you. And
right, definitely.
and I hope vice versa.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't think you know like every detail about like why I've made the decisions.
It's true.
I've kind of kept those to myself over the years. So it's interesting. And it's also nice to be able to share that with people who are probably following in these footsteps and trying to do this and that and not really putting thought into, oh my God, this happens. Like you have to deal with this in this job and
Right.
or how to do like the pivot.
Right.
And it's nice to be able to share my experiences.
Yeah, and I think, everyone talks about transferable skills, and that sounds well and good until you're like, shit, what are my transferable skills? What is a skill? What's transferable? How did you kind of navigate that?
Well, so like I said, I did hit the general manager role, and a lot of it was number crunching, uh, inventory management, and just keeping a close eye and not micromanaging, but making sure everybody was doing their job
Was
the way
it
they're
what you
supposed to.
expected?
I don't think I knew what to expect, honestly.
Uh,
Um, I, I didn't even think it was coming. I was just like, I was supposed to be an assistant manager, and then this opportunity fell in my lap, and I just ran with it, honestly. So I don't really know what I was expecting.
I think it's funny, a lot of people have these views, right, of what they
Right.
want. And whatever it is, whether it's to be a GM, to be a CEO, to be a marketing executive, to be a lawyer, a doctor, a garbage man, whatever, right? But then you get into it and you're like, holy shit, this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. No.
And by the way, I don't like it. That happened to me when I got into management. I was like, I don't want to have to tell some 25-year-old kid he can't go to grandma's funeral because we need him to be here reporting, I don't know, this weekend's earnings. Like, that doesn't, no, I don't want that. I want to be a leader, but I don't want to be that person who's like, you were in 3 minutes late, even though you stay till 8 o'clock every night, way past the time you should. You were 3 minutes late, and that's not okay. Like, I hated that part of it.
Well, so with that, I think part of the joy of being manager, especially general manager, was you get to take the experiences that you learned from the managers you didn't like or that were just bad bosses, and you get to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to treat my people this way. So like if somebody had a funeral to go to, I gave them the week off because go to your funeral, that's much
Right.
more important than making minimum wage at a food joint.
Yeah.
um, and I think it also made an impact on the people who I worked with and who thought of me as not just a boss, but it was I'd like to think that I was um, not just some jerk off boss who they couldn't stand and they just couldn't wait for them to go.
Right. And we're going to talk more about that in a little bit about the humanity in the workplace. But
Yeah.
let's go let's go back again. And now you've made the pivot. You said, "All right, I'm done with this restaurant hospitality life. I want to go to a more desk job." What made that shift for you? What caused that pivot? And then what was your thought process in doing that? What did you even look for when you were like, okay, I need a new job? Hey Google, where'd you go with that?
Well, that was a little bit difficult. Okay, so I think when I realized that I wanted to pivot, it was the holiday season, and I worked like 7 days back to back, God only knows how many hours. And on my first day off, they were like, no, you need to be here. You need to drive an hour to work right now. I don't care if it's your day off. And I was like, yeah, I don't know about that.
Ooh, this is awkward.
Oh yeah, I'm not, yeah. Okay. Um, so that made me change companies. And then at the next company I was with, um, they put my morals and ethics through the ringer. And
Mm,
they really, really challenged my morals and ethics. And I was like, nope, obviously this is not for me because I don't like the hours and I don't like doing shady things. So I'm going to just back out of the hospitality industry. So I took some.
I think, sorry, let me interrupt you real quick right there, because I think that's a really important point. I think the millennial generation, and even though you're on the cusp of being an elder millennial like me, ish. I know. I know. I get it. So the millennial generation gets a bad rap for jumping, right? You don't
Right.
like it, you leave. You don't like it, you leave. There's a big difference between being like, I want to go to the beach, not my job, and you're compromising my moral and ethical code of human being. I mean, come on, right? It's mind blowing. And I think that's overlooked a lot of times. I think because in this social media world, we have this assumption, and it is an assumption, that the millennial generation does not have moral and ethical codes because of what we see, what's so highly publicized in the media, what's talked about. But listen, I mean, you've heard this before. I think you'll quasi vomit. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that whoever is squeaking the loudest is what we're going to be drawn to. It's what we're going to see. It's clickbait,
Right.
right? And so that's what we all, you, me, everyone who's watching this, everyone who's not watching this, we say, oh yeah, obviously millennials jump. They have no patience. They have no loyalty. But when your company is questioning your moral and ethical code, what are you supposed to do? What other option is there?
Right. Exactly. And I think that really stands out and says, maybe because my bosses were not millennials, the people who were challenging me, they weren't millennials. So I think it really, like, people just need to step back and get away from social media and just evaluate things in real life, because I don't necessarily think that the problem is with millennials. I'm sure there's some crossover where,
Yeah, there's rotten apples. Of
right,
course there are.
right. But anyway, we're getting off the point.
It's all the point. It's all, but you're right. I do think, if everyone took a 1 week sabbatical from social media and actually had their own thoughts,
right,
and not what everyone else is telling them to think. And this is partially the reason that I'm doing this speaker series is, well, everything's wrong. I had this conversation the other day. Everything we do is wrong. You think X, you're wrong. It should be Y. You think Y, you're wrong. It should be X. It's
right.
marketing. It's social media. And I think we'd all be happier and more content and less self-doubtful if we just gave it a break. I'm going to step off that soapbox for a minute because that's a whole different conversation. But let's talk about boundaries. Yeah. Let's talk about boundaries, right? So you said, you know what? I already kind of don't like this whenever you say I need to be there, this 24/7 mentality. You don't like that, fine. So, but rather than just saying, screw this industry, I'm leaving, you said, let me try something else.
Right.
And you went to another company that then, just to compound everything, questioned on top of it your morals and your values. So where do you draw those boundaries, those job requirements, the want versus the need, the money versus the less tangible requirements, so to speak?
I think it's really something that you need to look down deep inside and be like, these are my list of wants and needs. And you need to say, like, I need to follow my ethics and morals because that makes me who I am. That is what I've been like taught and raised on, and that's who I am. Like, if I compromise those, I'm not me anymore, and it doesn't matter how good the work is, especially if I'm doing it like by breaking all my ethics and morals and doing it, I'm cutting corners and cheating and doing all this. Like, you don't earn the money you're making. So, and you don't
Right.
earn the best reputation. So that was just my thing. But
It's really difficult when your head, your heart, and your gut don't agree.
yes, I will agree. That's very true. And it happens a lot. I think a lot of millennials are leaving jobs because of that also, because, like, you have your boss who's telling you to do one thing, and then this social media is telling you to do another, and then your education's telling you to do a completely different thing. So yeah, it's a very difficult situation, and yeah.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately, a lot of people who have to make decisions like this don't have the best support system. And
Right.
we usually talk about support system when something tragic happens, but really it's this person or set of people that you turn to when these decisions come up, just as a sounding board, if nothing else than to say, let me talk this out with you,
Right.
because my head, my heart, and my gut are not agreeing. Either I want your perspective or I don't even need your perspective, but my ears all of a sudden are saying, holy crap, like, of course this is not the right thing to be doing. But
Right.
then you make the pivot, right? So you finally rectify that within yourself and you say, all right, it's time to go. You make the pivot and you say, I'm going to Google whatever. And you come across this job that has, well, I say this job, but really it's evolved from when you first signed on out of that last restaurant hospitality into this very startup world.
Mm-hmm.
Startup maybe isn't the right word because it's not techie, but it was a small business, we'll call it, a very small staff, so startup-ish. And now 7 years later, here you are. So you didn't go into it thinking, this is my long term. Talk us through that.
Okay, I took some of the things that I learned in the hospitality industry, and I found a job that could use those skill set. So I took that. I got this job that was paying not much compared to where the position I left, at least. And it was a warehouse management inventory job where I was just pulling parts, packing them, and making sure inventory was on track. And then one thing led to another opportunity fell into my lap there, and I had a thirst for knowledge, and I just kept learning more and more parts of the business. And now 7 years later, I'm the operations manager wearing God only knows how many hats.
Like 17, I think last time I counted. So you took a risk with this company because really, and I remember distinctly saying, what are you doing? And this was at the time, and everyone hits this different level of, we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs or whatever, and it's like breathing and food, water,
Right.
minor things, and then I don't know, satisfaction and all that stuff. And yours was a massive pay cut to a
Right.
point where most people would be like, what are you doing? Like, are you seriously doing this with a company? It's not like, there's a small company that sells books. It's called like Rainforest or something, but I think I'm going to try it out. And 20 years later, here's Amazon. This company was not that. However, it definitely has grown since you've been there.
Oh,
So
yeah.
who knows, right? How did you overcome some of that, in all fairness? Peer pressure of what are you doing versus, you know what? Because I think you've referred to it as a stepping stone,
Right.
but that's a pretty big stepping stone of 7 years.
It's more like a boulder.
Yeah.
uh, well, I was lucky enough to have a great support system. My parents allowed me to live there at the time rent free. Um, and it gave me the opportunity to take that pay cut and just jump into this job that was meant to help me get the skills to get a better, more reputable office job. But because I was able to just
A
stay
resume
there,
builder.
right, a resume builder,
Right.
yeah. Because I was able to stay there because of my great support system, I just kind of brushed off what everybody said because it worked out. Where like I had this great life balance, all of us work life balance, sorry, and there was a culture at the job where you just felt welcomed and you wanted to be there, and it was just, again, there was stuff to learn, and that was really what drew me into the company, is because whatever I wanted to learn, they would let me. So
Right.
I could learn or enhance my skills in HR. I could figure out better ways to manage the inventory. I got to learn QuickBooks and all these other programs, along with the science behind distillation and the parts that are needed to turn beer into alcohol. So it's into spirits alcohol, let me rephrase. And it's really interesting, and it was just something that kind of sucked me in, and I don't regret it. It's just one of those things. And
That's
all the
a
peer pressure, I just kind of said, screw you.
yes, you did. I
Do
was
what I
there for
want.
that one. I'll do what I want. And you know what? It's so powerful to be able to say that because there's so many people watching or not watching. Maybe it's someone that you viewers know who is floundering because of the opinions coming from every different
Right.
angle. And in all fairness, 7 years ago, the internet wasn't even what it is today. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but it really wasn't. It's a whole other level now. So, what would you say, you know, knowing what you know now,
Hmm.
what would you say are the biggest obstacles in your pivot process? Because they were grand, right? I mean,
Right.
you came from a very corporate minded family. I know that sounds weird to say, but I think a lot of people can associate with that. What are the biggest obstacles?
So I mean, one of the biggest obstacles, 7 years later, I'm still dealing with this. You really have to get out of that corporate mentality, especially if you're going into a small business.
The way
Um,
things are supposed to be per every grad school in the country.
right, exactly. Like what they teach you in books in college, what you learn in different areas of life is not necessarily going to come over to a small business.
Wait
And
a minute, wait a
especially,
minute. Are you sitting here telling me that there is not a silver bullet for being successful in life?
no, there's not.
Holy crap. I mean, obviously we're being facetious, but seriously, it doesn't matter how many books you read. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how many MBA courses or free tutorials or classes on Coursera or LinkedIn learnings you take. There is no one single way to do anything. Aside from maybe, according to me, making a sauce on Sunday, there's one way to do that. Let's be real. But aside from that, in the business world, there isn't. And I think people get so sucked into like, oh my God, I read this book. This is the only way to do it, according to that guy. But read the other book, and it's a completely different process
Right.
or completely different mindset. It's like dieting. For every book that says cut calories, there's one that says no, eat all the calories you want, just cut carbs. I
Right.
mean, seriously, like guys, snap out of it. This world is not one dimensional.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely true. And I also think that like while corporate has some great things that you can learn because corporate they have to follow like all the OSHA policies and all these policies and but the problem is they're all bottom line concerned. Like all they care about really is that bottom line and making profit and this and that. They don't care about their employees and they don't well, let me rephrase. It's not that they don't care about it. They just don't come first. And I
Mm,
think that's also one of those things where you kind of like you got to step back and say when you're in a small business, step back. The customer isn't 100% always right, always number one. And getting that out of your head also is pretty important in order to be able to pivot from the corporate world to a startup or a small business or even your own business as you're trying to grow it.
right. And I think Richard Branson was quoted as saying, take care of your employees and they'll take care of your customers. Right. And I think it's so obvious. I mean, you look at a case study like a Chick-fil-A. I've never gone there, and I go there more than I should. I've never gone there and someone be the person taking my order was in just a absolutely terrible mood.
Right.
Never, never. Either they deserve an Oscar, or it's just this culture where they're like, "Cool, I get to serve you lemonade all day," and thank you for that. But
In the Florida heat and rain.
right, exactly. I mean, it's amazing. But again, if you take care of your people, they take care of your customers. And I think
Right.
the trickle down and whatever other buzzword you want to apply to it, trickle down. I lost all the other buzzwords at the moment, but it's so blatantly obvious when people are happy at work, they do a better job.
Yes. They're more productive when they're happy.
Right.
Which when you bring that back to the corporate world because they really do care about productivity, you would think that they would take a little bit better care of their employees because it is proven that employees who use their vacation time, use their PTO, and they are just generally satisfied with the way that they are appreciated, they in turn are more productive as employees. So they're helping your bottom line. And
Right.
I feel like a lot of businesses today just don't realize that and don't take that into account and pay it forward, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think in this world of, for lack of a better phrase, shareholder value or stakeholder
Right,
value,
yeah.
whether they're public or otherwise, I think that that all is quantified. But how do you quantify happiness? How do you quantify contentment? I don't really think you can. And so the short ramping period that it might take to make that adjustment, to say, for this quarter, we're not going to think first about the bottom line. We're going to enhance our literally our human resources, our employees, their families, even extending out those benefits to, in whatever context you want to say benefits, whether it's paid time off or unlimited time off or health, well-being, mental health. When you start taking that 3 months to pivot, every bit of logic, every bit of research says it will pay dividends.
Right.
Right. But so many companies are so hesitant to do that. I think you've found a good company that has allowed you to be human in the workplace.
Yeah, definitely. I can't thank my boss enough sometimes. I buy him a bunch of sweets to make him to say thank you. Um, but he definitely has the employee first mentality, and he's really big on loyalty because he is so I'm not sure what the right word is, but like he takes care of his employees. So I lost where I was going with this.
It's like a quid pro quo, because he takes care of you guys, he gives you the freedoms you need.
Right, exactly.
Life happens, right? And you, because of that, you say, you know what, why would I leave this place?
Right, exactly. Because of that, my little stepping stone turned into a nice big boulder in my life. And
Right.
I couldn't be more thrilled with that
Yeah.
aspect.
And it makes total sense. I mean, you think about this, right? You started at Paycheck that I don't think you probably had since high school, in all fairness, a weekly paycheck, and a massive cut from where you were, which,
Right.
look, sometimes you got to do it. It's hard, but you suck it up. And you've built and you've grown and you've asked for what you wanted in a safe enough space to not think, oh my God, if I ask for a raise, I'm going to get fired, which that's never happened in the history of the world. Everyone thinks it might, but it hasn't. Right. I'm sure I'm going to get comments that say, this happened to me, but whatever. Bottom line is, this guy puts his people first. And all the times where you were like, oh my God, I'm pissed off at this situation or that one, not that they were many, but there were some, and it happens in every job. It's ignorant to think it doesn't. And that's why we don't get in trouble for talking about it. When you could have left, you said, but it's so good in all these other areas. I don't even need to think about leaving because I'm never going to find that. Maybe I could, but I don't really want to.
Right.
It's impressive, the mental shift that happens when you really believe that the owner or the manager has your best interest at heart.
Right, yeah. And it's kind of refreshing also. It gives you a new outlook on working, because you're suddenly, you can be in a job where you're definitely not number one by any stretch of the imagination, and you just hate working. You hate getting up in the morning. And then you go to a job where you can see that your time is appreciated, whether you're at work or not. And you are given the ability and the freedom to take care of life as it happens. All of a sudden you wake up and you're like, yeah, I want to go to work. Yeah, let's see what today has in store. Sure, I'll do extra jobs today and I'll learn something new, because it's not work anymore. It's just another day.
It's kind of like a fun club, like summer camp you get paid for.
Yeah.
I think it's easy for everyone to be like, yeah, well, you work at a distillery. It's like, you don't work at a distillery. You work at a warehouse that supplies the distilleries. luckily you have good clients who are like, hey, check out our cool product we made with your distilling pot or whatever it is. Lack of knowledge, not in the industry. But it's refreshing to hear that, and I think today you don't hear that enough. It's like, oh God, I got to set my alarm to go to work tomorrow. And it's like, or, I don't have to go to the office tomorrow because I have the freedom to live my life, but also get my work done.
Right.
And
yeah,
that's
I
a
can
huge
work
part.
from home if my child needs to take the day out of daycare for whatever reason. I get to work from home, and it's really nice to have that ability. And part of that only became because of COVID, but either way, it's one of those things where suddenly now I can work from home as much as I need to. And
Right.
it is refreshing to be able to say, wake up in the morning and be like, hey, sorry, I can't make it in. I'm going to work from home.
Right.
Okay,
And
see you tomorrow.
be just as productive as you would have been at work,
Right.
at the office, even though you're at work. But, it's an interesting dynamic because you work, and bear with me as I explain this for everyone who doesn't know the backstory. You work at a very male dominated, you're the only woman who works there. Granted, it's a small company, right? 5 or 6 employees.
We're up to 7, including the owner.
Ooh, 7. Moving on up. But you are the only female.
Yes.
With the exception of an intern for the summer or whatever, who's now since gone on to college or job, whatever. But bottom line is, companies like that, and again, bear with me, get a bad rap for being unaccepting or not enough women in representation or whatever. But you've grown up with this company to some extent. You've driven some of the success. I think you're more than qualified to take some of that credit, in my humble opinion, of not being involved with your business whatsoever, which I'm not. Disclaimer, I'm not. But you've now had a child, which was a completely new thought process for this business, because why would they have ever thought about that in the past? And you have the freedom, I think that's a big trend here, to do what you need to do when he has to be picked up at daycare or can't go to daycare or whatever. What does that mean to you as a mom, as a worker, as a everything?
Right. Well, so it's really interesting to see because we've dealt with people having babies at work. The guys' wives have babies, but the guys aren't the primary caretaker for the most part, So as the female who had a baby and is the primary caretaker, it's I don't know how to put it into words, how nice it is where you don't have to worry about my child is sick, I can't be into work again, and I'm going to lose my job. Like it's, as far as I know, it's so far from that. And it really lifts weight off your shoulders because you don't have to worry about, like, I personally don't have to worry that I'm going to get fired because my son is sick again with an ear infection or some contagious cough and I can't bring him to daycare, or he's got a doctor's appointment, or
everything that comes with kids.
Right. Yeah. Take your pick.
Yeah.
But it's also nice though, because so being a primary caregiver and working at the same time, it's difficult. Like, I was not prepared for how difficult it could be working full time and taking care. And it's nice because my boss is also like I can talk to him about stuff that's happening, and he's just like, yeah, and he talks a little bit about it, about how he did it, and then go home. I can leave at whatever time on a Friday because he's nice like that.
Yeah. I
Not
definitely
every
think
Friday, but
Yeah, no, fair enough. And I definitely think you're in a minority of the comfort level in doing that, for sure.
Right.
But it comes down to that communication and managing up and down. He's a rare CEO.
Oh,
for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
And in different ways, of course. But I think one of the things that my main question for you in all of that is, because we all know moms are amazing, right? Handle feats that some people are like, look, you sneeze on me, I'm like, ugh, I'm gonna vomit. and you're like wiping boogers, and that's the minor piece of it. And you can obviously tell I don't have kids when I say that that's the minor piece, because that's disgusting in and of itself. But are like moms can do so much as it is. Who was anyone to think that they couldn't also handle this job, right? Like,
Right.
so how do you view that of like, do you find yourself less productive now that you have a kid?
No, I still get everything done. It may not be in the same amount of time because you're handling other situations. I wouldn't say it like makes me less productive, but it did throw me for a loop for a while because you know there's like this thing where you're like, oh no, I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom because I love my career, but then all of a sudden this bundle of joy appears and you want to be a stay-at-home. So you're battling this thought and you're going to work every day, and thank God that my job gives us so much freedom, because I don't know if I was working for some strict company who was like, no, you have to be here at this time and you have to do this, this, and this. I don't know that I would have stayed with my career.
That's
Does that make
so
sense?
interesting. It does make sense. It makes sense in that you got to make the decision for yourself because the company is so people first. And
Right.
I think that says so much, because you've seen the statistics. It's what, 40% of a salary to rehire someone, something like
Right.
that. The statistic, like there's so much, I don't want to call it waste, but if you think about it of in the sense of, well, if we would have just given her the freedom, she wouldn't have quit. We wouldn't be spending this 40% of whatever given salary to rehire, train, backfill, blah, 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 to a
Right.
level that probably won't be equalized by one role because of the growth. And you think about it in that terms, and you're like, and again, here's where we split on corporate mentality versus not corporate mentality. If you're so bottom line oriented, how is this not a no-brainer for you?
Right.
Give
Exactly.
people the freedom to be human. Like, life happens, for God's sake. Like, I battled cancer, you had a baby. Mine was actually shorter term than yours was. Mine was 3 years done. Yours is like 18 years, kind of, and who knows what'll happen, you know? And that's just for kid number one. So how do companies sit here and honestly say, no, strict? Like, how is that logical?
Well, it's really difficult because I've been on both sides of the fence. I know that corporate, like, I can see why corporate's like, no, I need you here at 8 a.m. You can't take your child to daycare, or you can't take your child to their doctor appointment. You need to be here at 8. I can kind of understand it because there's a schedule, there's stuff that needs to be done, reports, deadlines, all that stuff needs to happen. But then now that I'm a mom working for a small business that is very not corporate America, it doesn't have to be done by 8:30.
Right.
It can wait an hour. Being able to drop my son off
8:30
at
was arbitrary in the first place.
right. Yeah. So I mean, like, I understand both sides, but I don't, as a small business person now, I could never imagine being like, sorry, be here at 8:30, or I'm going to replace you. I'm going to spend all this money, time, energy, effort to replace you because you have to bring your son to daycare or whatever
Yeah,
the situation may be.
it's illogical. It's funny because I'm and this is where we are two roads diverged in a I bungled that one. Whatever it is, two paths diverged in a wood. I don't know, whatever. I am corporate all the way. But then I talk to someone like you on this level, because we haven't had conversations like this. It's more like, oh, where's my nephew? It's so enlightening to see this side of it, because we don't talk about this in corporate. It's like, I need someone tomorrow. And we complain that it's a hiring shortage and I can't find good candidates. Well, guess what? Those good candidates are sitting at home managing Mom Inc.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be realistic. I would venture to guess that a woman or a man, whatever, who is staying at home with their kid, I don't know so much as an infant because they sleep a lot and obviously there's other pieces, but especially as you get older and you're in T-ball and school and schedules and blah, 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 and this one's sick and that one's painful and this is crying and that's a company. Like, it's probably less whiny than corporation A on Wall Street. It's probably more intricate than that. And so we sit here and we say, well, we can't do this and we can't do this, except Mom Inc. over here is handling it all with a smile on her face and a glass of wine, whatever, beer, whatever.
Mom or Dad Inc., by the way.
Or of course, or Dad. And here we are saying, oh, we can't find qualified candidates, or we're discriminating against people who have had a gap because they had children and raised children.
I never understood that.
It's mind-blowing. There is no logic aside from the way it's always been, which those are the most detrimental words in business. This is the way we've always done it, so let's just keep it going. Seriously? Like, are we in that world?
No. Times are changing. With all of the technology that is available today, there is absolutely no reason that corporate America should be like, oh, yeah, no, we're just going to keep on the track that we're doing, because it's not working. It hasn't been working for a while. Millennials are burnt out and finding new jobs, and I mean, that's just the way life is going. And I think corporate America needs to wake up and realize that.
Yeah. What I love about this speaker series is I've talked to now, you're the 5th person, you're episode 5. We are more than a month in, which is exciting. Yay. I've talked to so many people because we all talk about this, right? Oh, I saw it on social media. Thank you for changing my mind about this crazy topic that is probably polarizing anyway. It's like, oh, because I saw this meme on social media, now I changed my entire perspective. I have to be honest, in talking with different people here, I have changed my perspective on a lot of things. One, parenthood in the workplace or not in the workplace, but also millennials in general. You know, we chastise people for finding this new way to create a living, and yet it's the most innovative way. It's progressive. It's real. It's human. We are being adults and having meaningful, thoughtful, mindful conversations without leaving hating each other. Who knew in this world that we live in that was even a thing? I know. You mean we can disagree and not leave like carpet bombing each other? Like, are you serious? It's ridiculous. But here we are having this conversation. What is your advice for people who are watching this? Like, at any stage, whether they're coming out of college, whether they're coming out of high school, because who says college has to be a thing? Work in the trades, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
What's your advice? I mean, I know we've talked through some things. Talk to me. What is that? What are those things that if you do nothing else, if you get nothing else from this video, there's a lot to get from this video, but if you get nothing else, get this. Advice for people watching. 1, go.
Stick to your own morals and ethics. That is what makes you you. And no job is worth compromising that.
Yeah. No brainer, right? No brainer, but you have to hear it. You would think no brainer.
Right.
But I would even take it a step further to say, figure out what your morals and values are.
Yeah.
Right. What do you care? What are you not willing to give up? Right. I was going through an old notebook today. This is a true story. I was ripping out the pages that I took notes that I'd never look at again till the day I clean out the, and rip them out. And one said, what are you not willing to sacrifice for whatever? And the only word under that for me, ready for this? You'll nod when you hear it, but this for me was Christmas.
Christmas?
Yeah.
I mean,
for me,
that's fair though.
Yeah, for me in my career path, being in sports management, events, advertising, right? My career has been built in advertising. I am not willing to sacrifice Christmas. So I don't care if it's the World Cup, the Super Bowl. Thankfully, they don't align. On Christmas, you could come to me and say, Jessica, I will pay you, okay, maybe like $1 million, but I will pay you $900,000 to come in on Christmas Eve. Christmas Day, take it. Christmas Eve, absolutely not.
Right.
That is my line in the sand. Christmas Eve is my favorite day of the year. I love cooking. I love
Zeppelis.
eating the Zeppelis straight out of the oil. Let's not even kid. I love the camaraderie, the family. There is nothing short of you will get to play quarterback for the New York Jets on Christmas Eve if you want to, and you have to be here from all day, all night. That is probably the only way that I would ever give up Christmas Eve. But in a job, no. And it sounds trivial, but that is my morals, my values. I value that family time. I value the memories we make with our seasonal selfies on Christmas Eve. It is the one day of the year where nothing else matters except what is happening in these walls, you know? And so for me, that's it. I don't know that a lot of people have that clarity, and you can, and maybe they do, maybe they have it in different ways, but maybe they've also never really thought about it.
Right. Yeah. I think if people were to like sit down and be like, what is something that I just don't want to give up? Like,
Yeah.
Like I want to be present for such and such event or whatever the case may be. I think they would realize that there is something that people don't want to give up. They just feel like they have to because corporate America says they do, or because the demands of life have become too much, and unfortunately, some people do have to give it up. But I think it's very important to at least know what that one thing is.
Right. Where you stand on it.
Right.
I'm willing to give it up, but only if these conditions are met. I'll give you Christmas if you can give me Thanksgiving. Not me. Not me. Also Thanksgiving. I love to eat. But yes, I agree with that. And I think a lot of that is based in assumption as well. I assume that if I ask for Christmas off, I'm not going to get it and may be looked unfavorably upon. Because a lot of people don't like to have the hard conversations. Tell Jordan I said hello. But a lot of people don't like to have the hard conversations, and unfortunately, that's where a lot of the business gets done.
Right.
So okay, so moving on. I know you have baby to put to bed.
No, he's already in bed.
Oh, well,
you'll kiss kisses, Jessica.
You'll kiss him in a minute. We're almost done, I promise. I think another one, and I think you echo me in this one, is be willing to learn new things.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, I mean, you're enriching yourself by learning new things. It's just, and it's fun. If you learn something that you really like, all of a sudden you're going to find something where you're like, I thoroughly enjoy this. This is what makes me want to come to work. And I think just being willing to learn it's very important, especially if you are trying to pivot.
Yeah. Could you imagine being like, actually, I think I'm done learning. Like, I'm good. No. We're both like, no, dumbfounded. No. Absolutely not. All right. And then the final one, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, you really should be able, especially if you're making a pivot like I did in my situation, multitask and learn how to deal with the stressors that come with multitasking and being able to pivot. Because, like I personally took a pay cut to pivot out of the hospitality industry. So I had to learn how to handle a whole new set of stressors and manage my finances so that I could work for that pay cut. And then once I'm at work, I handle multiple things throughout the day, and I could be doing one thing and somebody asks me a question, and you have to be able to both remember where you were. Post-it notes work great. You have to be able to answer them and then go back to what you're doing. Post-it notes work great.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of literature out there that will say there's no such thing as multitasking. And fine, call it what you will, put a new spin on it and sell another book. The bottom line is we all have to handle a lot of different things in 8 hours a day, right? There's only so much time. You have to get your stuff done. There's a level of prioritization, sure. Yes, you can try to plan out your day to not have to constantly switch between things. But the bottom line is somebody will ping you. Somebody will come into your office. Somebody will have to put the baby to bed. We get it. There's a lot of different things on everybody's plates. But first, I think it's the awareness that everyone's in the same boat for the most part. We're all juggling 17 different balls in the air. But it comes back to what you said before. We are all human. Life happens. Life being the holy crap, the website went down at 2:00 in the morning. Okay, what do we need to do? You know, it's like you said, it's managing those stressors, and it is not necessarily always dropping everything to do it right in that moment. Some things are not the end of the world, you know.
That's true, definitely.
Yeah, it's funny how a lot of that stuff works, but it's that constant balancing act, and it really does come down to communication. How do we work through this? How do we find a viable option to get us to the next stepping stone, so to speak? All right.
Yeah.
Here's the fun part. In closing, we are going long. That's fine. I think we're right at an hour now. Maybe 5 minutes shy. High five, 5 random questions, rapid fire. Don't think about it. Here we go. You ready for this?
Okay. Not the hard ones.
What's your coffee order?
Right
Don't
now,
act like you have to think about it.
Right now, it's fall. Mocha pumpkin iced coffee. It's so good.
Mocha pumpkin iced latte?
No, iced coffee.
Iced coffee.
With cream, 1 sugar, and a turbo shot.
Wow. Okay, you are a millennial after all. I kid.
Basic.
Don't hate in the comments. All right, dogs or cats?
Dogs.
I already knew the answer to that one. What is your favorite car, dream car?
I don't have one.
Oh, how are we related? Oh. What is the favorite nickname you've ever had?
Smiley.
Oh, I usually prepare these and I forgot. Gulf or ocean?
Ocean.
Yeah, it's a true story. And mountains or beach?
What time of the year is it?
Doesn't matter.
It does, though.
All year.
I don't. Oh, that's a tough one. I'm sure there's mountains near a beach somewhere.
California. Right.
Pick a different state.
All right. Mountains or beach in the summer?
Beach.
Right. Obviously. Okay. Coke or Pepsi?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, how are we related? Oh.
Dr. Pepper cream soda.
All right. Well, you are. I won't use the word basic, but I think you know what.
That's not basic.
It's a little basic. It's fine.
Dr. Pepper cream soda mixed together?
Isn't that one thing?
That's one drink right now. It's so good.
All right. Well, I'm a purist. Thank you so much for taking the time, especially last minute on a Tuesday night when I called you at 3:30 frantic. So I love that. I love you. This is my sister, everybody. I hope you enjoyed our lovely witty banter. Tune in for episode 6 next week. I hope you enjoyed episode 5. If you haven't seen 1 through 4, check it out. And Dee, last thing before we close out, talk to me about what you're working on, what you want to be contacted for, if you want to be contacted at all, anything anyone should connect with you on social media or anything.
Right now I'm working on being a mom, working a full-time job, and I do have a little pet project on the side, but I'm not giving you the details yet because it's still up and coming.
So follow her on LinkedIn or connect with her on LinkedIn, follow her on Instagram. We'll get you all those links in the write-up. If you are listening to this on a podcast, just read it when you stop at a stoplight, or hopefully when you're at your desk or whatever. All that to say, thank you for tuning in. Check out the next episode and any that you may have missed, and we will talk to you again soon. Thank you for tuning into Bright Ideas. Have a great day, night, weekend, whatever. Thank you, everybody.